President Donald Trump is going to build the strategic reserves in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin traders are ecstatic about Trump's plan. They call him the crypto president and Bitcoin the digital gold. But it's not all sunshine and roses. When Donald Trump builds reserves in Bitcoins, he will boost the Bitcoin, destroy the US dollar and cripple the US economy. Hi, my name is Vitaly. I am an economist. I am a boring mainstream economist. And in this video we are going to talk about the most exciting news of the day: Donald Trump, Bitcoin and the future of the US. So, Donald Trump is going to build a strategic reserves in Bitcoins. First, the US Federal Reserve can't buy Bitcoins. It's the law. But the US government can buy Bitcoins. The US government can and does keep Bitcoins already. Right now, the US government keeps about 20 billion worth in Bitcoins. If you're an American, let me ask you this. When your government acquired Bitcoins, did that make you happy? Did that make you rich? Or you didn't even know that up until recently? My point is this: even if Donald Trump creates the strategic reserves in Bitcoins, will that change anything? Will that change your life for the better? By the way, is it just me or the word strategic makes no sense? If this president buys Bitcoins and the next one sells them like this, that's not strategy. In fact, there's nothing strategic about the US politics. The US politics gets upside down every 4 years when every president dismantles the legacy of the previous one. So if Donald Trump buys Bitcoins, what are the chances that the next president will nourish and protect the legacy of Donald Trump? And we usually use this word reserve for reserves of central banks and gold. But Bitcoin is just a computer code, a bunch of ones and zeros in electronic records. Can we really call it the strategic reserve? Now, for the most important part. The Bitcoin and the US dollar are polar opposites. A Bitcoin is not just different, it's hostile, antagonistic to the dollar. A Bitcoin is the enemy of the US dollar. Let's pitch the US dollar against the Bitcoin. The supply of US dollars goes up and down, being controlled by the Federal Open Market Committee. The supply of Bitcoins is fixed at 21 million. The US dollar is controlled by the US government, which gives the government the power to impose sanctions, tariffs, and put pressure on other nations. The Bitcoin was created to avoid rules and regulations. The US dollar gets its power from the economic might of the United States. The Bitcoin gets its power from the distrust in the US, distrust of the official currencies and government authority. The US dollar implies the US economic dominance. The Bitcoin implies that no single nation can dominate the world. Bitcoin is the opposite of the dollar. So a stronger Bitcoin will imply a weaker America. I am an economist and I might be biased, but I believe that the US dollar is the most important weapon of the US. Not the military. The US lost its war in Afghanistan, ran away in shame. Not tariffs. Tariffs are easily avoidable. Not sanctions. The sanctioned countries are thriving thanks to those sanctions. So the most important tool of the US economic influence is the US dollar, the strong dollar, the world reserve currency. And Bitcoins are eating into the power of the dollar. At the exact moment when the US power is slipping away, Bitcoin make America weak again. But let's be fair, President Biden also worked hard to destroy the power of the dollar. He did it with slapping sanctions and imposing a ton of restrictions on payments on US dollars. So if President Biden made the US dollar weaker, why wouldn't President Trump do the same? President Biden was destroying the US dollar in an old, boring way with sanctions. And President Trump will do the same in a new, exciting way with bitcoins. And Presidents Biden and Trump are weakening the US dollar at the exact moment when more and more countries are selling off the US treasuries and switching from payments in US dollars to payments in Chinese yuan. That's perfect timing. The US government had been very cautious about cryptocurrencies because the cryptocurrency is the enemy of the dollar, but it ended in January 2024 when the US approved the first Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock, the fastest growing ETF. That was the moment when Bitcoin became a proper legal financial instrument. And Trump is going to take Biden's policy on the next level. He's going to boost Bitcoin even more. The Trump policy will be a threat to the monopoly of the US dollar, a threat to the US dollar as the world reserve currency. It will imply that the US is losing control over international transactions. And if governments and central banks around the world start buying bitcoins, the more bitcoins they buy, the fewer dollars they will keep. So all those unsold dollars will be coming back to the US, triggering the already high inflation. It will imply an easier tax avoidance, less taxes for the US. I am not against cryptocurrencies. In fact, I like the idea of a free and independent currency. But I look at this from the point of view of economics, the boring science of economics, and especially for my American viewers. I want to make it clear that cryptocurrency will mean higher inflation, greater public debt, and less power of the US. Now, let me be crystal clear that the fact that the Bitcoin is bad for the US economy, bad for the US dollar, doesn't mean that Donald Trump will not do it. Because it's a very job of a politician to do what's bad for the country. The share of the US dollar in reserves around the world fell to 58%. The last time the US dollar was at this level was in 1995. Remember 1995? At that time, the US was the only global power. And now it's not, which means that this process will continue, that central banks around the world will keep replacing dollars by gold, other currencies, and now, thanks to Donald Trump, by Bitcoin. And when that share falls from 58% to 50%, that's it. The US dollar is no longer a world reserve currency. And maybe, just maybe, this is exactly what Donald Trump wants. Maybe he wants a weaker dollar. I don't know why he would want that, but maybe that's the plan. As Donald Trump slaps tariffs and sanctions on other nations, and as the central banks around the world replace dollars by gold, the US dollar will be getting more toxic, and Bitcoin will be getting nicer and nicer. Do you own any cryptocurrencies? Does the Trump plan make you happy, or it scares you? Put your comments below and I'll talk to you next time.